Carmentary! What's going on? Let's talk about this whole over-tourism thing a little bit. And I'll just start by saying, let's all stop talking about over-tourism, okay? Let's zip it, throw away the key. No more of this over-tourism talk because it's becoming a problem. The problem being that here in Hokkaido, we have the exact opposite problem. We have under-tourism right now. The month of May has been a nightmare. Golden Week holidays, the very first week of May is always good. A lot of people move around. They take their, extended holidays. The Japanese population kind of gets out there. And after that, it always kind of chills out a little bit. We looked back at our earnings from last year at the same time, and it's similar. It's similar, but it's even a little worse this year. It's very low. It has been deathly quiet in the neighborhood. Worse than 2 years ago when the news was, hyping up the you-know-what and saying, stay home, everybody has to stay home. That was the big thing in Japan. It was like, stay home. And it was deathly quiet there at that time for like a month. And this last couple of weeks has been exactly like that. It has been so quiet. There's just like no one walking around. Now, we live in a little hot springs village, tourist town. So it's not the city. We're away from the city. And we are very aware of, what's going on with tourism because we live in this little resort town. And I can tell you that here in Hokkaido, the last couple of weeks has been deathly quiet. And it's not just us. It's not just our business. It's everybody. So last couple of days, I was able to meet with, actually some really big bosses of, hotels. I talked to someone who works in the marketing department for Hokkaido's #1 resort. Been chatting with people, and everybody is saying the same thing. It's just dead. Everybody just stopped coming. Now, what I'm meaning by that is foreign tourists. The word here is inbound. Inbound tourists. People from outside of Japan coming to Japan to enjoy Japan. And that's where the whole topic of over-tourism comes from. It's been all over the news the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. And, every day there's some new story. I did a couple commentaries talking about it. And obviously there was little mentions of it here locally in the winter when there were a lot of foreign tourists. Things like local school kids were not able to get on the bus that they needed to get onto to go to school because it was filled with tourists, and they all had the suitcases and they take up a lot of space on the bus, and there's not enough bus drivers to make, to have more buses, and it's a whole series of problems. And we heard a little bit of that kind of talk locally, but mostly this over-tourism phenomena is happening in Kyoto and around Mount Fuji, and maybe some places in Tokyo, but Tokyo's so used to having millions and millions of people, occupying their infrastructure that, another million people, what's the difference? It's like, just push them into the subway a little harder, pack them in there. So it never felt, oh, we're suffering from over-tourism here in Hokkaido. Never really felt that. And now, it's like the exact opposite. It's down to 0. So, that's why I said, let's stop talking about over-tourism. Maybe everybody, across Asia and other countries, they're like, oh man, Japan, hey, Japan's kind of getting a little angry at the tourists over there. Things are kind of heating up because of a couple bad apples. We should chill out. cancel that trip to Japan, man. Maybe we'll go back next winter when everything kind of cools down a little bit. I don't know if that's what's going on or not. I don't think so. I mean, this is a slow time of year. May and early June. Tourism kind of fades off a little bit. It's kind of a slow time. So I understand that. Things generally start to pick up from about mid-June, and then it really picks up for the summer holidays. But I do want to say, I think there's two things kind of adding to this extra quiet feeling. Number one, the foreign tourists really dropped off in the last month, more than we've seen in the past. And number two, the Japanese population, the locals, and when the national tourism is like really, really down. I think that's the real difference. Even though now everything is sort of back to normal, we have festivals, there's concerts, like everything's back to normal, should be back to normal. I think the local domestic tourism has really stalled. Why? Well, inflation is starting to really hit people in the face. Like a big old roundhouse. I think there were a lot of jabs, little jabs coming, and people were like, yeah, okay, price is going up, yeah, whatever, gasoline, okay. And it may be a seasonal thing. In the winter, you're locked up, it's cold, you're inside, you're having to pay for kerosene, and but then you've got New Year's holidays, and sort of everybody goes skiing, and things are just happening. And springtime here in Japan, March and April is like graduation ceremonies, and then start of a new school year, like all these things. And after that start of a new school year, and generally the new business year starts in April, and like I said, Golden Week holidays, right around that time, I think reality really starts to hit hard. I think everyone's sort of living in this sort of dream world, just, kind of coasting along. End of the new year, into the new year. Oh, the new year, it's great. Oh, this is fun. Oh, it's snowing. Let's go skiing. Oh, yeah, whatever they're saying on the news, blah, 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 blah. Snow melts. Green things start to come out. People really start looking around. They're like, holy shit, how much does a bag of rice cost? Oh my God, what, gasoline? What price? And suddenly, the reality sets in. Even in our house, we had the major economic, personal crisis, but my wife was like, hey, the credit card bills are way too high. This is in March and April. The credit card bills are way too high. We don't have any money in the bank. So for the next 2 months, there will be no spending of any kind on our personal credit cards. Serious. Did you buy a coffee at Starbucks with the credit card? I saw that. That's 400 yen on our credit card. Who's responsible for this? Serious stuff. So I think that's just sort of a phenomenon here in Japan due to the way the year's set up, the calendar, etc. Everybody just suddenly gets that hard reality roundhouse in late April, and then it sort of reverberates through May. So that's my personal take on it. But boy, it's rough. It's so quiet. It has been so quiet. It actually reminded me of this science fiction movie I watched so many years ago. I do not remember the title. I would love to know the title. If anyone knows this, I'm going to give you the plot. And if you know this movie, please let me know the title, because I'd love to watch it again. It was I think it was a pretty small budget kind of indies movie. We're talking like 25 years ago, 30 years ago maybe. The story is that there's some kind of what was it? I don't know if it was something happens on Earth, and basically everyone dies, like disappears. The entire planet disappears, except for a select few people who are having near-death experiences at the moment of this happening. I can't remember what it was, whether it was like a comet came, or there was like a solar flare, or there was something cosmic, I think, that happens. And the only people who survive are the ones who are like, there was a guy who was like drowning at the moment. There was a girl who was like electric shock. There was a couple people. And they go through this near-death experience, and they come out of it, and they're like, oh, I survived. And then they're like all alone. And it was such a clever movie, because it only had like 2 or 3 people in the whole movie. And they're all, I think it was filmed in New Zealand or Australia. I think it was New Zealand. So that's a little hint for you. And they filmed it in like cities and parks and all these places, but they had to do it like super early in the morning or late at night just to get it, these outdoor locations with no people. So it was clever, because it really gave you that feeling of like, wow, what if you woke up one day and like everyone was gone, you know, like 100%, except for you. You're like the only one. You would go fucking crazy. And I think I remember something about that. The guy's kind of starting to lose it. And at some point, he's like wandering around. He's scavenging for like canned food, because like, you know, everyone's gone. So there's no more food production. There's no more farming. There's just like, it's just empty. And he's like eating these canned foods, just kind of going crazy, wandering this city thinking he's lost his mind. And then he meets this girl. I think there was like a guy and a girl, and then maybe one other person. And they're like, whoa, you know, like, why are you here? Anyway, after that, I don't really remember how it ends. I don't remember the whole story. But that movie has stuck with me for a long, long time. And it was just sort of, it was well done. And it kind of had a nice impact on me. If you remember anything like that, please let me know, because I'd love to go back and kind of watch that movie again. But that has kind of been the vibe here in the neighborhood. It's just like, where did everybody go? Which brings me to another topic. I'll just keep rambling here for another couple minutes, and we can wrap on this one. So, declining population is another huge topic in Japan. It's like on TV all the time. Anytime anybody makes like a little speech at like I've done a couple of seminars at schools recently, and you know, someone's always like, they have to throw it in there. It's like shoshika mondai. It's like the Japanese word for it, you know, declining population, the problem of declining population. You know, they like to throw it out there, and there's no one ever offers up a decent solution. It's just always like, well, there's the declining population program, the declining population problem that we can do nothing about. It's totally irresistible. It's just gonna happen, and that's the way it is, so just deal with it. Young people, you are part of the declining population generation, and you are fucked. That's basically all we ever hear from anybody. So yesterday, I was at a tourism association party. It was like this big gala event that they have. And they always bring in like senators, Japanese politicians, senators, stuff like that. Just sort of typical. And one of them came up on the stage and he gave a little speech. And of course, you know, talked about a variety of kind of just, you know, generic topics. And then of course he had to throw in the declining population thing. And he was telling this story about how in the government, they're working on, I think they're taking an existing law, a law that they've had for a while that said we can bring in foreigners, give them a special visa if they're going to study and learn a skill. Like they're going to come to Japan and they're going to learn to be a nurse or an engineer or an architect or whatever it is. They're going to be part of the school system. They're going to learn this skill and then we're going to send them home. All right, you've gained the expertise, you spent the money on the school, we're happy, get out. That was the law that has been in existence for quite some time. Now they're like, okay, we got this shortage of people problem and it's a really big fucking deal, so we gotta do something about it. Let's change this law and let's say you can come, you can stay, we'll give you the special visa, you get the schooling, you learn the skill, and then you stay and you live here, you settle here, I don't know if it's like, I guess it's like leading to like immigration. Like if you do this, you come here, you learn something that's a valuable skill, it's obviously going to be valuable to us too. Why do we need to send you home? You can stay here, you immigrate, you become part of the society, and you help fill the gap, this massive gap that's getting wider every day, less and less Japanese people. So basically it's like figuring out a way to import people, and sounds good on the surface, right? You're training them up, you get some young people, they learn how to like do these important jobs, they learn how to speak Japanese, definitely kind of important in Japan where English is kind of non-existent, and you kind of bring him into the fold. And he was giving this long spiel about it. He was trying to, he was making it sound good. He was doing the politician thing. He was enunciating really good. I notice how these people who are used to speaking in front of large groups, they always enunciate really well. They move their mouth a lot when they talk, and they really make sure the pronunciation is good. Anyway, he was going through the spiel, and I'm like, it sounds good, but you're going to bring these people over, you're going to train them up, they're going to get great education here, high level, they're going to learn a skill, and some company from some other country, it may be their home country, or it may be another country, says, excuse me, I see you got that nice degree, you learned all that stuff over there, we pay double what Japan pays. And that person's gonna be like, later. And they're gonna get on the first plane and they're gonna leave. Japan is so cheap. You can't get paid anything. It's so cheap. They're trying to get inflation up so that wages will then go up and Japan can become globally competitive. It ain't happening. I'll tell you that much. It's happening at a snail's pace. Prices are going up, the wages aren't. So I just don't see, Japan is great place to live, friendly people, everyone's nice, it's clean, there's no wacky people, there's no there's a couple tent cities, but they're nice tent cities. You could go to a park with the tent city with all the homeless people and they're like nice. You can sit down and have a chat with them, at least in Tokyo where I have been. Anyway, I just don't see Japan being able to pull it off and be able to keep these people here. Well, that's about all I got. Kind of ending on a rather dark note there. Sorry about that. Basically, it's deathly quiet. Tourism has dropped off a cliff. Japanese people are freaked out about inflation and they're going for bike rides and walks in the park. I hear that's really popular because it's free. And they're not traveling, they're not staying in hotels, they're not eating out that much. Everything's just like, And everyone's sort of going, well, when are the tourists gonna come back? Because we scared them off with the whole over tourism thing, but now we kind of realize we really need them because they're the only ones who like spend money and eat food. Hey everybody, Japan yen's really weak right now. Come to Japan, please. Send out the message again. All right, that's it for my rant for today. I hope you enjoyed that. Try and keep it humorous and light. And I'll be back with more soon. In the meantime, remember to drive safe.